Welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Andreas, your title is Head Culture Transformation. What does that mean to you?
I think to me it's an expression of a privilege to serve SIX and the people at SIX in a truly exciting and meaningful story, jointly with many people throughout the organization.
And in your own words, what does culture mean to you?
Culture, on one hand, I think it's just how are things done around here. From a more entrepreneurial point of view, which I like, and what we say often, how we put it often internally at SIX is culture is how we execute strategy. So at the end of the day, culture is about competitiveness of the business. And at the same time, it's about identity and belonging.
And you, Sarah, I know that you used to work in the corporate world as a culture program manager. And what does this word culture mean to you?
Yeah, culture for me is really about authenticity, right? It's about being real. I think especially like in the business world, people don't just want to hear this is our values, but they want to see people living it. And I think culture is how we live it, right? Mm-hmm.
It's such a fuzzy word, I think. It's so difficult to really extract what is it really. And my feeling is that culture is becoming more and more like an important topic. Mm-hmm. But there are not many people who can really explain it to me, what it means.
It's one of these things where you would get 11 opinions if you ask 10 people. Mm-hmm. So what is it? Everybody talks about it. Everybody finds it important. And I think at the end of this is why we like this concise thing of culture is how we execute strategy. It's quite meaningful. It sounds very simple to say, but to us this is important.
And so at SIX you are responsible to run a corporate culture transformation program. Would you like to talk about it, please?
Yes, so 2017, end of 2017, we got a new strategic mandate. And at the beginning of 2018, we started a strategy transformation program. And it was quite clear. There are new customer requirements, there are new market conditions. So what brought us here won't take us there. And we realized during 2018 that we need a lot more grip on culture. And we kicked off a program that is, in essence, community-driven. So it has a lot to do with working in networks of people. It's in general an agile setup with a governance, with a sounding board. Internally, we talk about the SIX spirit. That's the expression we use for our culture. And so we have a governance around it, and we work with many people who engage on top of their other duties and roles in that program. And so we drive it forward.
Do you have some concrete examples on how this transformation program looks like?
Yes, so what we learned through the journey of the last roughly 2 years, 2.5 years, we realized that we have to work in parallel on 3 trajectories and with a long-term view. And these are at the same time our strategic dimensions, how we work on this program. 1, it's creating a supportive framework. 2, it's rethinking leadership in an era of knowledge working. And 3, it's engaging people. So we want everybody to step on the playing field and play. And you can only really work on it in an agile setup because you discover over time things. So for example, in your framework, we need to ensure that policies, that our code of conduct, that any kind of organizational things don't contradict our values. So they must support, they must enable our values. And so we identify things over a longer period of time and mend them or improve them directed to the North Star of the culture we want to have.
And what's the North Star of this culture you want to have?
That's described by our 4 core values, basically. So our 4 core values, they are trust, customer focus, ownership, and collaboration. At the end of the day, the name of the game is growth. So we are on a growth strategy, and we are convinced we need a culture that is coined by these 4 cornerstones that enable us to grow and develop the innovation capability we need.
I think with this trust word, that's really interesting, because I think that trust is the result of something, the result of behaviors. And that's why I found it so difficult how you build trust. What do you think about it?
I am very glad you picked trust, because for me it's at the core of all things. So take our 4 values. It's very hard to imagine collaboration without trust. It's very hard to be truly customer focused without trust, let alone ownership. So when you think people should really tackle something outside of their usual responsibilities, you need to trust yourself, but also your environment, that it's a safe environment. So it's at the very core. I can give you 3 concrete examples along these 3 dimensions we work on, how we foster trust. So one example is, it was clear to us that we introduced a new culture survey and a listening strategy, because we need a constant dialogue with our people. We want to understand what's the opinion of our people, how we are doing in reality. So what we started to do is we just pushed out exhaustive 6-level results in our intranet to everybody. Why? Because we believe wisdom is with the crowd. So we have to trust people that they can take everything, even if it is too much information. But if we want to co-create, our future, so we must trust that people pick out what they deem is important and effective to progress towards the culture we would like to see. Secondly, empowerment. When I started at SIX, it was very difficult to get to kind of signature rights, to sign legal documents or to sign business documents. And that is a typical framework topic. So when you look at that, it's clear we have to allow people not only to take ownership, but also to co-sign at least for things they are responsible for. So we introduced a commercial mandate that now allows more people to sign for what they are really responsible for in a functional sense. And maybe a third example, until 2019, we had a home office policy. And that home office policy pushed up the approval level for approving home office or remote working to a very high level in management. And that's another thing where we said, when we talk about trust and ownership and collaboration, we must give the responsibility to teams to decide how you deliver performance. So as a team leader, as a team, you should be able to take the decision how you work, where you work. Is it here? What helps us most to deliver the performance? So we abolished these kind of policies. And for us, these are tokens of trust that we can foster through the framework. And then, of course, we have to live it in leadership practice as well. And
luckily, you did that before the pandemic arrived.
Exactly right. We greatly benefited from that because, people and leaders, they are brought up in a different way. We are all a bit the product of what we experienced in the past. So not everybody is at ease with working with virtual teams and with employees at home. But if you want to find a positive side of the pandemic, I think we were all pushed in a situation where we had to try it a lot, and we found, yes, it works really well. So yes, we can trust people. Yes, people can organize themselves. Teams can organize themselves. And I think for us, this has been a really remarkable story. And you're right, we were delighted that we worked on this before.
Thank you.